Welcome to the Leadership Purpose with Robin podcast. I'm your host, Robin L. Owens, PhD, and this is where we dive in each week to give advice, tools, and tips for high-achieving women leaders, and we talk about leadership purpose and its importance for you. I am a college professor, and when I am not doing that, I am speaking, writing, coaching, mentoring, and teaching high-achieving women leaders how to find, and not only find, but how to stay in alignment with their leadership purpose so they can make a meaningful difference right there in their career, leadership, or business. Okay, let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm so glad you're here and so glad you take time out of your busy schedule to listen in. And I'm so excited to present to you today. I'm having a conversation with Dr. L. Carol Scott. And now let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Scott. She has a dream to change for the better the way we treat each other in America. Through what she calls the wisdom of childhood, you can finally understand what makes people tick. Through the 7 self-aware success strategies. The 7 self-aware success strategies that she calls SASS, S-A-S-S, to manifest that wisdom in your life today. The SASS model integrates more than a century of theory and research on early learning and brain development, lessons from Carol's lifetime career with children and families, and tools from her own journey of recovery after a childhood filled with trauma. A truly committed University of Kansas Jayhawk, she earned her dual BAs in anthropology and human development, an MA in early education, and a PhD in developmental psychology. Wow. Welcome, Dr. L. Carol Scott.
Thank you so much, Dr. Robin. I am delighted to be here.
And I'm so glad you're here. And, as I mentioned earlier, I just want to say to everybody, I've noticed that you have this wonderful, rich voice. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that. Everyone to listen, especially careful. All right, so let's jump right in. Tell us first a little bit about you and then tell us about the work you do.
Okay. Well, as you said in my introduction, I'm a developmental psychologist. And what that means is that the study of how people develop, how we grow, how we become who we are as we emerge from infancy into adulthood is my study. And my particular focus has been on the first 7 years from birth to 7. And what I have learned over my career is that, that little book that came out, 40 years or so ago called Everything I Needed to Learn, I Learned in Kindergarten or something like that?
Yes, I do remember that.
That was just 1 out of 7 years where that author, Robert Fulghum, learned everything he needed to know, because every year of those first 7 years, we're building what we think of as our personality. And then we carry it out into the world and try to operate from that foundation. And because so much of that got created almost without our permission before we even knew it was going on from birth to 3, it just makes sense that we might have to go back and do some do-overs.
And so tell us how that connects to your work.
Yeah, what I have found is that as adults, a lot of us operate in our relationship with a pretty thin toolkit of strategies for successful interpersonal relationships. And interpersonal relationships are at the heart of all success, no matter what it is you want to be successful at. I don't care if what you want to do is be a Fortune 100 CEO, or what you want to do is be the best mother ever on the planet, or the best jazz dancer. I mean, whatever your success is defined as by you, you need other people. You need relationships with other people. And so most of us are getting along with, maybe about half or less of the best tools. And each year, what I have put together in the SASS framework is that each year we really get the opportunity to develop a pretty important success strategy starting at birth. And so we learn how to trust people, for example, in our first 6 months of life. Well, how's that going for you now? Do you lean on people? Can you delegate work as a manager? Can you ask for people to meet your needs in your family? Do you even know what your needs are? Because especially women get told so often that being needy is not attractive. We kind of shove our needs down where nobody can look at them because we're not supposed to have any. We're taking care of it all, right? Taking care of everybody else's needs. We don't have any needs. So trusting, finding out what your needs are and trusting other people to meet them is something that you could have done as an infant, and maybe you didn't get to. As a toddler, you were supposed to know who you are. Toddlers They have a bad reputation because they're kind of little wild creatures, untamed. But what they're really doing, if you think about that, one of an infant's main jobs is to practice walking until they can walk. And they stink at it at first, right? They fall down all the time. They're terrible at walking.
They do fall.
The job of a toddler is to figure out what they want, think, and feel. And they're terrible at it at first. They fall down emotionally, intellectually, all the time. They fall apart. They have what we call tantrums. But all they're doing is they're falling down in the practice of something that they need to practice at. Expressing emotion, expressing their thoughts and their opinions, asking for what they want. And so they do it like a little wild beast, and we're supposed to help them get better at it. But instead, a lot of us learned that what we wanted, what we think, and what we, feel, and it doesn't matter. It's not right. There's something wrong with us. We're too much. We take up too much space. And so those are two very good examples from the first 2 years, and they're the first 2 of 7. Trust, independence, faith, the ability to dream and believe in things that aren't possible, negotiation to get what you want, vision to have a goal and get there, compromise to get along in groups, and acceptance that sometimes, even if you follow all the rules, bad things happen.
And that is true. That is true. And so you work with people to walk through those steps, to reflect on their early years in order to impact now these current days as an adult.
Yes. And what I try to do is help people just first look at, how's it going? How are those things working in your life right now? Where is the trust operating who are you trusting and what are you trusting them for? Where can you express your feelings? Where do you know what you think? Kind of what I would call a little quick and dirty assessment, nothing psychometrically valid, but just, some questions of self-reflection to say, where am I with this in my life? And then let's look at, what is it that children are doing when they're developing this? What's the developmental pattern? And how can we make that relevant as an adult? So for example, trusting when you're an infant is about, you cry because you're hungry and somebody comes and feeds you. And so you learn that basic lesson. I need, somebody comes. I need something, somebody come. And if that's a pattern that repeats consistently in your life, then you trust people to come when you need things, right? When you get to be grown up. If for some reason you need things as a baby and nobody comes a lot of the time, or you may have to wait a really long time, or when they do meet your need, in quotes, they aren't really meeting your need, they're meeting their need. That comes in a lot about the social interaction and playtime. So then you grow up feeling like, well, what I need doesn't matter to anybody. And certainly there is no one to meet my needs. So we need to take a look at then, what is the pattern that the baby does? I need something, somebody comes. All right, so then you need to look at what you need. What do you need? And we do some exercises to identify, these are the things that I need from other people. And here's how I'm currently getting those needs met or not. And so we tear apart things that adults think of as these holes, constructs like trust. And we say, I trust him, I don't trust her. But that's not really how it works. How it works for a baby is, I need something. And then I trust you to meet the need. It isn't just about an on-off, I trust you, I don't. So we kind of have to take apart the developmental processes. And that's why I call it the wisdom of childhood.
That's fascinating. That is really fascinating.
Thanks. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I can tell. What do you enjoy most about your work, the work that you're doing? I mean, I know it's fascinating and I could probably guess that it's transformational for lots of people, but what do you enjoy about it the most and why?
Well, I have the selfish enjoyment of talking about children, which I adore doing. I feel a little bit like a child whisperer, like I'm interpreting children to the world sometimes, and I really love that. But the service enjoyment, the service aspect of it, is that I get to see people transform. And it is a marvelous thing to see someone suddenly realize, you know what? I've never once in my primary romantic relationship been clear about what I want and what I need. Never once. Being a big light bulb going on over their head, and then watching them repair that, take the steps to have the conversations, the challenging and the risk-taking conversations that lead to change around that. Listen, sweetie, I have not been honest with you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that you say that, what's an example of how a person's listening right now and they say, well, how can I ask my husband or my partner or my, supervisor, how can I express a need to them? What would be some language they could use?
I think, of course, first it begins with be clear about your core, that I call the heart of you, what you need, what you think, what you feel, and what you want. Those four things make a unique package out of every individual. And if I can determine, or if you can determine what it is that you need, feel, think, and want, and then know that you're okay. The tricky part is knowing that you're okay, because the old training, kind of pressed deeply into our psyches is that we're not okay for needing and thinking and feeling and wanting those things, that there's something wrong with us. And so sometimes for people like me who had a pretty significant trauma background, that takes therapy, that believing it part, So depending on how badly damaged your personality and your psyche and your sense of self is, that might take a little work beyond the SASS. And really what I tell people is the SASS is a second step, because we all have to deal with the big deal in our life first. Everybody has a big deal to deal with that they've brought with them some distance, and do that. Get sober, leave the bad marriage, face the child abuse history, right? Do the thing that is obvious. And then we start looking at this other stuff. And so then you have maybe the resources to say, the conversation goes something like this. I've been realizing that I need some things from you, and I'm not getting them because I'm not telling you that I need them. So that's not fair to you. So what I want you to know is that what I need from you is every day I need some physical contact that is not about sex. I need just hugging and cuddling and, just being physically close where we're just hanging out and there's no other goal. And I just figured I better tell you that so we can start making sure we get some of that.
Yeah.
And then you take it from there.
Yeah, that was easy. That was quick and
right?
easy, the way you gave the language like that to use. And I'm having a sense that it's helping someone right now.
Oh, I hope so.
I'm really fascinated by this. And it's clear. It's clear. I mean, I read the bio, we heard about your educational background and your experience, and it's clear you have a lot of experience and expertise in this. And given your whole wealth of experience and expertise, this might be hard to just narrow it down. But other than what you've just given to us, what's one piece of advice or tip or something you could give to the listeners who are listening right now? And, I always tell people I started the podcast for high achieving women, because they're the ones who are the professionals, the leaders, the moms, and always supporting others. And I imagine this to be a place where they could just grab one quick tip and go from people who have experience and expertise like yourself. So given that, what's one thing you could say to someone who's listening now? They might be in their car, they might be on the phone or at home or in between meetings. What's something you can share from your experience?
It sounds a little bit lofty maybe, but it's simpler than it seems. And that is that the place to start is to be a 3-year-old and have a passion. Pick a passion as something big that you want to do. Something that is not about your job, it's not about your parenting, it's something big in the world, something you think should be different, like the dream that I shared that I want to change for the better the way we treat each other. Something like that. You want to get the plastic out of the ocean. You want to eliminate child abuse, something you'd really like to see be different. And then every day recognize that your life is about that and do one thing about that. Just take one step toward a passion, because what I believe is that the energy of a 3-year-old can drive us to do everything in our lives we imagine and much that we cannot imagine, because they're full of it, right? There's just no passion like a 3-year-old's passion. And so if we can just start with imagine the most insane possible big dream you can imagine that you just want to say, well, that would be great, but, and just leave the but off and go do it. Just start doing it.
Yes, I love that.
It makes everything else better. It makes the work better. It makes the slogging through the to-do list and the inbox better, because there's this thing in the background all the time where I have this pulse of passion that drives me on my tiptoes into life like a 3-year-old.
Makes so much sense that passionate energy would spill over into every other area of life and work. Yes, I love that. All right. As you know, my own work has to do with leadership purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you hear the term leadership purpose, what comes to your mind?
The very first thing that comes to my mind is that leadership happens on purpose. that self-awareness, the self-aware success strategy, self-awareness of what it means to be a leader and to do it with intention is what really resonates for me in that phrase. I learned one time in the leadership training program about something that the trainer called the spiral of leadership, that you get started often pulled into a leadership role because you take responsibility for something. So, you are the one in the office who says, well, somebody needs to put new paper in the copier. Where's the paper? And you go put the paper in the copier because it needs new paper. You take responsibility for something. And whenever you do, even something little like water the plants in the break room, all of a sudden you have more authority in whatever group you're in, whatever community you're in. And when you have more authority, because you seem to know what to do, you're doing stuff. If you have more authority, then what you say has more power and it has more impact on the people who are listening to you. And when you have more power and impact, you more often have to take responsibility for yourself. So responsibility spirals back around to responsibility through those other three pieces. And that's a quite intentional process. If you're aware of it, you can make it quite intentional.
Yes, through that awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think it's important to have leadership purpose? And if so, why? Or if not, why?
I do. And I think it goes back to what I said about having the big dream. We talk often about goals. We talk a lot about strategic planning in business. We set ourselves up with visions and with, all the language to tell us where we're going. But a lot of that is what I think of as relatively short term. They're like doable things. We can get them done. That's why they're called goals. That's why they have plans attached to them with steps. But I believe that we need to be driven by a bigger purpose as well, by what I call the big dream. The faith of the 3-year-old child is faith in things unseen. It's faith in things impossible. It's faith in the fantastical. They think the moon follows them, they believe in everything. And so what if we could too believe in everything, anything? I love the little graphic that shows a circle with 2 tiny little pie slices at the top. And the first pie slice is stuff I know. And the second pie slice is stuff I know I don't know. And the whole rest of the circle, like 90 degrees of it, is stuff I don't even know I don't know. And in the realm of that stuff I don't know is the big dream, is the thing to aim for that I can't see. And I may work my whole life trying to make people treat each other better in America and die watching people act like fools still. And it will have been worth it.
Yes.
That's leadership purpose to me.
Yes. I love that because your passion is going out despite the result of it. Your passion is still going out. And I see how that can lend itself to joy. Well, Dr. Scott, we're coming to the end of our episode, but this has been a fascinating conversation to me. I loved hearing all that you have to offer. And I'm guessing there might be others too who are saying, I'd like to hear more. And so if they are saying that, how can they be in touch with you and hear more about you?
Well, I just now on August 24th dropped a brand new website into the world that I'm so excited about. So please go to lcarolscott.com. And I will be starting some small group intensive coaching seminars this fall in October, November, and then again in the winter with 7 women, just 7 women and me, getting sassy together. So I hope some of you will join some of those cadres of coaching.
Yes, I hope whoever's listening, I hope you do. If you were inspired by this conversation or some resonance with it, feel free to jump on into that group. It sounds like it's going to be a good one. Okay, Dr. Scott. Well, this is the end of our time. And I just want to say that I really enjoyed this conversation. I'm going to be thinking about lots of things and the big passion and my dream. All that you're saying is definitely in alignment with me and the work I do. So thank you for being here and sharing from your apparent wisdom.
My pleasure entirely. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, everyone. This is the end of our episode. And if you want to hear more about me, you can reach me on my website, robinlowens.com, robinlowens.com, or you can reach me on social media, Robin L. Owens, PhD, Robin L. Owens, PhD, and I'll be happy to hear from you. Okay, until next time, this is Dr. Robin. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Leadership Purpose with Robin podcast. If you enjoyed it, head on over and rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. New episodes drop every week, and I can't wait to hang out with you again soon. Meanwhile, this is Robin signing off. See you next time.